Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. If you all just want to put where you're joining us from, your name, and one thing you're excited for your student to experience at Temple. As more folks join us, if you just want to put your name and where you're joining us from, and something you're excited for your student to experience here at Temple. A lot of East Coast folks, some New Jersey folks, that's where I'm from. Happy to have you here representing New Jersey. A lot of Pennsylvania. That's awesome.
Massachusetts, where I lived before coming to Philly.
Dubai, I think that's the farthest.
Yeah, I think Dubai might win. Yeah.
Yeah. Saudi Arabia, that's pretty far as
Ooh,
well.
Excellent.
amazing.
Thanks for joining us from overseas.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so fun.
San Antonio, Texas. It's still morning for you, so good morning. As more folks are joining us, if you just want to put your name and where you're joining us from, and one thing you're excited for your student to experience here at Temple in the chat. A lot of Pennsylvania here today. Shanghai, China. Wow. I don't even know what time it is for you, but thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I don't know. Does China win? I don't know. We got
Puerto
folks that down
Rico.
the block and we got folks around the world. This is so awesome.
We have a former Temple grad. Very, very nice. Thanks for joining us today.
New Englander in Connecticut.
Los Angeles, California. Good morning.
Might win for the furthest distance within the country.
Yes. Another California. Some people joining us from Chicago. I believe it's still morning there. Morristown, New Jersey. That's near where I'm from. Philly. Very nice. Hi, great. Thank you so much for being here today. Oh, sorry. Welcome to the Parent and Family Orientation Housing and Meal Plan Ask the Experts webinar. My name is Olivia, and I am the graduate intern here in the New Student and Family Programs office at Temple University. We are so glad that you decided to join us today. We would love to know about you more. So if you could just put your name and where you're joining us from in the chat. We have enabled closed captioning for this session. To view the captions, just click Captions and then select Show Captions. This session is being recorded, and after today, it will be shared on the Parent and Family Orientation Hub. Today's panelists are representatives from Housing and Residential Life and Temple's Culinary Services. These offices directly support Temple University students by adjusting their housing and meal plan needs, ensuring they have comfortable living arrangements and access to nutritious dining options throughout their academic journey. We'll start by having them share a brief introduction of themselves before we move into their presentations. Following their presentations, we will have a Q&A session for the remainder of our time together. We will get started with our presentations and Q&A in a moment, but there are a few announcements to share first. You have likely noticed your audio and video are muted. You can see and hear us, but we cannot see and hear you. Please submit your questions by using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Click the Q&A button to open the window, type in your question, and if you want the question to be anonymous, check the Send Anonymously checkbox, and then click Send. Your question will not be viewable to the rest of the participants until it has been answered. We will share helpful links related to the questions that have been asked in the chat, so make sure to check the chat throughout the panel. We'll do our very best to answer as many questions as we can today. If we're unable to answer all of the questions, we'll provide contact information at the end for you to follow up with the appropriate campus partner for your specific question. If you have questions related to safety, academics, student involvement, or health and well-being, do not worry, as we will provide their date sessions at the end of this webinar. If you have questions about student finances, you can go to the Family Experience portal to see the webinar recording.
And get started. My name is Ryan Young. I am the Director of Residential Life here at Temple University. I have the opportunity to work with the staff who live amongst your students who are living on campus with us. I'm so very excited. I'm also joined by my colleague Ashley. And Ashley, do you mind doing a brief intro of yourself?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently the Associate Director in Operations. So I work alongside Residential Life. I've been working on my housing and room selection. So you've probably received 100 emails from me. But yes, this is the face behind the emails. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Ryan.
So next slide. Um, Here we go. So, wanted to give you all a brief overview of university housing and residential life. Our team actually supports both undergraduate and graduate students who live on campus. And our team is comprised of both undergraduate, graduate, and full-time staff who are going to support them during that time that they're living with us in that experience. University Housing Residential Life is made up of a couple different units. Primarily, you and your students will be interacting with our housing office, which Ashley currently works in, the Res Life office, and possibly our maintenance office as well during your time on campus. Our student staff, our in-hall teams, start with our student staff, our RAs and our peer mentors. We have 120 undergraduate students who live on the floors with our residents and are highly trained to be effective resources and support mechanisms for your students. That training happens before they come to before your students move into campus, and our team will be here to welcome them when they show up for move-in day, which Ashley will talk a little bit about in a few minutes. They'll connect with your students and be able to get to know them so that way we can provide them the correct resources and support that they need to be navigating their time here at Temple successfully. We also have some graduate and full-time positions that are living in and working in the halls. Our residence directors and residence coordinators are the ones working directly with our RAs. They also help with our student accountability and serve as hearing officers, provide crisis on-call support, and general resources for the staff. One of the key partners that we have in our buildings are our residential operations managers. The reason why they are key is they run our front desks. That's where our students will go if they're locked out, if they're getting packages, have questions about mail. So our resident operation managers tend to be one of the main connections our residents make as well. I referenced earlier, we do have a maintenance team and a facilities team. We have our own in-house folks who do that work and assist in keeping our halls very clean. We also have tradesmen and other workers that work across with specialties to make sure we're able to address anything that happens in the residence halls. While we have those folks, your students are likely to get to know their custodians and maintenance workers the most because they're going to be the ones on the halls that they see most frequently. And then the other team that you're going to interact with the most is our housing team that Ashley works with. These are the folks who help with our billing and our room assignments, doing room changes and those processes as well. And so as you can tell, we have a number of folks who are here to help you and provide answers to your questions and make sure you have the support that you need, especially as you're sending your students off to college. And we are definitely here to help with things that might come up like roommate concerns, adjusting or transitions to college, getting connected, involved, or other things about the university. Next slide. Most students, or most of you understand or know from your working with your students in the K-12 experience of a curricular approach or a curriculum. We try to take that same approach working with your students here. We consider what do they need at what time of year and how are we offering that in the residence halls. So we'll scaffold that experience to best help them and try to help them develop and get experiences that will complement their academic growth. So many of the students living in this communal environment is going to be a new experience. So we understand that this is going to be a challenge and that they're going to have to do things like speak with their roommates and create a roommate success plan about how they're going to live together and doing that. We have a variety of things to connect them both in the residence halls and on campus because research shows that students who are connected are more likely to stay and persist to graduation. So we want to make sure that those opportunities are easily available right outside their door if they step out. I'm going to turn it over to Ashley for the next slide to talk a little bit about move-in stuff, which I'm sure folks are very interested in.
Yay, thank you so much, Ryan. So this week, move-in times have been shared. So that's hot off the press. Those went out this past Monday. So we've been sharing a lot of resources and information to make sure everybody is prepared for move-in day and to make it as smooth as possible for you. Thank you so much for our coordinators for putting the link in the chat for our website. That is going to be the best source of information. There's a whole section about move-in, the move-in guide. It's a lot, but we promise it has everything you would need to know from A to Z to prepare to live on campus, what to bring, what to leave behind, how do I decorate my room, how do I get in touch with my roommates. So please make sure you're utilizing that resource. Any emails that you send to housing@temple.edu, those come right our way. We really do try to respond to people within 1 or 2 business days. So we hope that you'll reach out to us with any questions. If you do have questions about your move-in time, all of that is visible on My Housing. So we're happy to support you, and we really look forward to meeting everybody on move-in day.
Hey, everybody, I'll go ahead and jump in and introduce myself, Justin Gyron, and I'm happy to lead the marketing team here with Temple Culinary Services. I'll pass that off real quick to Hope and Justin to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Hi everyone, I'm Hope. I'm the dietitian on campus. I saw a few questions pop in already about allergies. I'm the person to talk to for anything related to that.
Well, my name is Justin Mims, and I am the marketing coordinator for Temple Culinary Services as well. So I help a lot with Justin in terms of marketing our products and overall just making sure that everybody knows what we offer. So just to start things off, we're going to just talk about what's coming new to the fall semester. So our dining hall, aka Esposito Dining Center, we're having new renovations in terms of seating. This is basically the finishing touches on our renovations from the winter break 2023-2024 semester. And we're basically just making it to where the seating is a lot more comforting, a lot more home away from home vibes for a lot of our students, just because we know a lot of people are coming from different locations. So we want to make sure that everybody feels as comfortable as possible. For Zadie's Kosher Delicatessen, we're moving that to the Morgan Hall Food Court. The previous location, which was the Hillel Center, was a little bit out of the way for a lot of people and was somewhat hard to access for most people. So we decided to move it to one of our food courts just to make it a lot more accessible. So we're going to bring a lot of fan favorites back from the Hillel Center to the new food court location, as well as just new offerings for the kosher deli as well. The hours are going to be from Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. and it's going to be available on Grubhub. So if you want to order stuff online via Grubhub, you can do so. And also please note that hours and offerings may change due to Jewish high holidays, which you can also check out on our website as well, Campus Dish. Lastly, for all my kale crunch salad fans, as well as macaroni and cheese fans, the Chick-fil-A in the food court is expanding, so we have those options now. Next slide, please. So this is basically what the seating is going to look like next semester, aka the fall semester. At the moment, we have a sourcing problem with our tables, so it's not one-to-one yet, but this is going to be what it's going to look like before the semester kicks off. So we have a lot of high top seating as well as loungewear and cafe style seating, basically just making sure everything is nice, comfortable, comfy, cozy overall. Next slide, please. And then this is basically just what we offer here for Temple Culinary Services across campus, specifically in the Esposito Dining Hall. We have a lot of student-based activities that we like to do and a lot of overall activities that we like to showcase with different vendors. We have the mascot coming around sometimes. We like to have different carts around campus for midterms and final season. So we like to overall make sure that people get the Philly vibe as well as just overall making sure that your kids are happy, healthy, and overall nourished.
Thanks, Justin. So we are going to jump into a bit of nitty-gritty here. I want to spend a little bit of time talking through the meal plan policy. We want your students to be able to understand the meal plans, to utilize the meal plans, and to get the most out of them. So that's our goal here. So what is a meal plan? It's going to be your ticket to dining on campus. There are two main types of meal plans. There are weekly meal plans, which are the majority, and then there are block meal plans. For those students who are first-year and transfer in Temple provided housing, a minimum of a weekly 12 meal plan is the requirement here. So when we talk about a weekly meal plan, what that means is it's a smaller bundle of meals that is loaded onto the student's card every Sunday at 12:01 a.m. And we're going to see in a couple of slides, or actually I think it's the next slide, the breakdown of the meal plans. But to the second type of meal plan, a block meal plan, it's also a bundle. It's just a larger bundle. And the larger bundle is able to be sort of utilized as a student sees fit as their schedule allows over the course of the semester. So as your student progresses within the university and down the line, they come into things like, student teaching or maybe having a co-op or an internship somewhere where they're not going to be on campus as much. That's where these block meal plans can be really useful. Next slide. So here we've got the breakdown. So the weekly 12, weekly 15, and the unlimited are those three meal plans that are for students who are in Temple provided housing. And the other ones are also listed there as well. So first thing I want to sort of explain is the unlimited. The unlimited meal plan could also have been called the weekly 112 meal plan. So I lump that into a weekly meal plan, even though it's an unlimited meal plan. And I want to take a second to sort of explain how that works. So picture having a debit card where you've got sort of two lines of, we'll say, meal credits on them. So you've got one bucket where you've got residential meal swipes, and then another bucket of 21 where it's going to be your retail meal swipe. So really, another way to look at that is it's the weekly 112 meal plan, but up to 21 meal swipes per week of those 112 meals could be used in retail, whereas the other ones would need to be used in the dining hall. That said, we have yet to have a student that is dining at the dining hall that much, although it is lovely. So the unlimited meal plan will be probably a better name for it in the meantime, but just to sort of explain that. The other ones are a little bit more clear cut. I would say the weekly 15, the weekly 12, for example, the weekly 15 every Sunday, 15 new meals, or 12 new meals for the weekly 12. And of those 15 or 12 meals, the student can use any combination they wish between residential dining and retail dining. Guest meals are the last thing I want to call out on that slide. We're very active with students and hearing student feedback. This is something that we recently added to the meal plan structure. Students wanted to be able to, treat guests to meals. So these meals they're a one-time bundle, so once for the semester, but they can be used at our all-you-care-to-eat dining facility. So they can use them on guests, and a student can even use them on themselves if let's say they run out of one of their 12 meals during the week and they want another meal. They can use that on themselves as well. Next slide. So as I said, meal swipes can be used in our all-you-care-to-eat dining hall. But then I've also been talking about retail. One thing I want to call out in terms of retail is that this is the majority of our locations. There are a couple exclusions, so you would be able to use them at brands that you would expect, like Chick-fil-A, Panda Express, Salad Works, Halal Shack, those things. We do exclude coffee and convenience. And although I won't be able to hear the chuckles, I'll still make the joke. I always say whenever we have in-person orientation, I don't know what your students are like, but when I was a student, if I were allowed to use my meal swipes on Frappuccinos at Starbucks, I would not have eaten. So that's sort of those exclusions, or convenience being exactly what you would think of. A 7-Eleven, a convenience store, we have automated solutions. So that's sort of prepackaged stuff. So students are able to use their meals on, really some substantial meals here. We do have 4 meal periods, which I'm not going to touch on them too much now. We'll look at the next slide, but I do want to spend a moment on the meal swipe policy. So you can use a single meal swipe in our all-you-care-to-eat dining location, which kind of makes sense if you think about it, right? You go in, you're only going to need one swipe because it's all you care to eat. In retail, though, it's different. You're allowed to use up to 2 meal swipes per transaction, and that's because there's something that we call meal equivalency. So what meal equivalency is it's a dollar amount that's sort of assigned to each meal, and it's going to vary according to the meal period. So we got it right here in the middle of the slide. So breakfast, it's going to be $7.60. Lunch, dinner, and fourth meal, it's going to be $10.50. So let's do some simple math. I know some people do have students that have gone to universities with different types of meal plans. This is not a bundle. This is a la carte. Your student can pick whatever they would like. Chick-fil-A, they can mix and match items. Let's say it comes to $11. And then they could use a meal swipe and then pay the difference of that 50 cents if they're using it wisely. And then just use one meal. There are plenty of options that fall under a meal swipe. My other running joke is your student is not purchasing meal at the airport. It is Philadelphia pricing. It's aligned with, the rest of the local area, nothing too crazy here. And let's go to the next slide, please, because that's going to maybe better illustrate sort of how the 2 swipe thing can play out. Again, meal periods laid out here to the left, max meal swipes up to 4 meal swipes per meal period, up to 16 meal swipes per day, up to 112 meal swipes per week. That's why whenever I we'll revisit the unlimited meal plan. That's why I said that we could call that the weekly 112. Because really what that unlimited meal plan is a student can utilize up to the max of the weekly meal swipes each week, 21 of those being within retail setting. So as I said, for this column on the common meal swipe usage, these are literally from the menu boards. Breakfast is generally cheaper. So at Freshen's Fresh Food Studio, breakfast sandwich and a fountain beverage comes to $6.58, well under a meal swipe. Chick-fil-A, another one of our popular locations, chicken sandwich, large fries, and a fountain beverage comes to $10.15. Again, a single swipe. There are some concepts that are a little bit more pricey. I don't know how many people have been to Panera Bread with a You Pick 2 or a full-size sandwich option. There's a lot of things to kind of mix and match there, so it can get to be a larger check. For example, a full sandwich, a cup of soup, a bottle of water is going to be $20.27. But so that would be an instance where, you know, it's coming close to that $21 of those 2 meal swipes. So one thing that I always say, and I've witnessed this many a time, your student will get very savvy with this. They will nickel and barter to the cookie. I've been in the Salad Works line. They know exactly what they can get to get the most value on that. Next slide. So as I said, the weekly meals reset each Sunday at 12:01 a.m. There are 2 dates that I want everybody to take a moment, jot down, screenshot it. So meal plan changes. So in the fall, September 8th, and in the spring, January 26th. Now, what this is so in the summer, your student's going to choose their meal for the fall and the spring. But let's say they try it and they need to change it. It's before this deadline, they have the opportunity to change their meal plan one time. After this deadline, they're able to increase their meal plan, but they're not able to then decrease it. So especially in these cases where your student might start out on a larger meal plan and feel that that's a little bit too much, you're definitely going to want to jot down this date so that they're able to sort of downgrade to a meal plan that's most appropriate. I always say we're kind of the best marketers and the worst marketers. We want your student to really get value, but we do not want your student to be on a meal plan that's too large for them or too small. We want them to we want it to be just right. Next slide, please. That last one's about guest meals, so we can skip that. So this top part I already said about students choosing both their fall and spring meal plan selections. I will say that if no meal plan is selected, they will default to that weekly 12, since that's the minimum. Of course, students who are not required to buy a meal plan, they are eligible for any meal plans. And that's sort of based on, you're going to want to sit down and talk to them about their schedule, where they're living, sort of, you know, their daily habits in order to ascertain which one's going to be the best possible meal plan. Another call out here in terms of meal plan cancellations, they are considered on a case-by-case basis. So to ultimately, if, you know, housing is available, we've got their information down here, hours of operation and contact. So in terms of questions are kind of good to get the process started to ultimately decide if a meal plan cancellation is something that makes sense, given the situation. Of course, we do have Hope on the line, and we're very, very accommodating for a lot of different situations. So we really are able to accommodate a good bit. But ultimately, if sort of you go through the process and a cancellation is necessary, then on the TU portal in the My Housing section is where you're going to find that release. Next slide. And then these I'm going to go real quick because I know we're going to have a lot of questions. So this is just a map. We're going to have a QR code at the end. This is just useful to show that there are locations across campus. It's useful to really spell out which ones are coffee and convenience, where it's only cash and credit, where guest meals are accepted, etc. That'll be on a QR code at the end. Next slide. This is just a visual way of showing which locations are open 7 days a week versus during the week. Of course, our largest locations are going to be open 7 days a week. The dining hall to get a student center. Another running joke I have is they would light the campus on fire if we were to shut down Starbucks and not have it open 7 days. They need their caffeine. Of course, certain brand guidelines we kind of can't avoid. Chick-fil-A will be closed on Sunday. We have those listed out there, but just to give you an idea, next slide. And then this is just to Hope, this is the first time I get to sing your accolades while you're actually there in person. So what I always tell everyone is we have a wonderful dietitian. Her name's Hope. You can see her right there. And she's really great. She's able to meet with your student as sort of as often or as rarely as they would like. We tend to have students with varying needs. Some students really like to be, have more in-depth meetings and to spend a bit more time and to have our dietitian be hands-on. Some just want to kind of know what's out there and blend in. So Hope's wonderful for both of those scenarios. We have a breakdown here of where we have our vegan and vegetarian options. At the Esposito Dining Center, we have True Balance, which is our certified allergen-free zone, which Hope can speak more about. But there are, of course, more options, but we don't want to make, for those students that have a stronger allergy, it's really best to reach out to Hope. Also, we're calling out those kosher and halal options on their next slide. And then thank you very much for listening to me. Here are the QR codes that I promised. So you've got our meal plan guide and FAQ. This is a PDF that literally word for word has everything that we sort of went through. So if you want to revise it again, that dining map we reviewed, Hope's information right there. And then of course, to see everything that we do on social media, we got that last QR code. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. It is time for questions. So please post any questions you have in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And we'll start off with some questions. I'll start off with Hope. If my student has severe food allergies, do we reach out to you about the food that will be available in the dining hall?
Yeah, parents can reach out to me or the students themselves. Like Justin mentioned, I do one-on-ones. But the big thing that I usually say is our main dining hall has a station called True Balance, which is all menu items made without the top 9 allergens and typically could accommodate most allergies. But of course, if you want more specifics, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, great, thank you. This is for housing. Where can families find the heights of the beds and other measurements in the various residence halls? Also, are beds allowed to be raised in order to maximize space?
Thank you so much for that. Beds are a hot question, so thank you. So the beds in every residence hall are adjustable. So they go as low as like 24 inches and as high as like 40, like 42. So what I don't believe we allow risers because the beds themselves are already pretty high. You would need like a ladder to get up there. So yes, please make sure that you are doing your storage containers and maximizing that storage. If you have specific measurement, there are general measurements on our move-in website. There's a section there that says like what to pack, what's already in my room. If you want really specific measurements about your own personal room, we do have some of those. So please feel free to send us an email and we will double check for you. And again, we try to be as accurate as possible, but could be off by a couple inches. So we appreciate just a little bit of grace there, but I know you're trying to maximize that storage.
Great, thank you, Ashley. For students just joining the Temple community, is there still space for students to live on campus?
Yes, so spaces are limited at this point, given that it's July, but there are still spots available. So if you have someone trying to reach out, we know that transfer students are still coming. So there are a few options left if you still have someone that you'd like to join us.
Great. Will students be assigned a roommate if they are unable to find one?
Yes. So if a student doesn't kind of pre-select a roommate and do roommate matching together, anybody going through room selection can elect to live in the room with you. So that's kind of how the random roommate thing is done here. Like we don't assign you a random roommate, but another student can pick to live with you. And you'll be able to see that in My Housing. Your roommates that are in your current space will populate and their email address so you can reach out.
Okay, great. What is the best way for students to connect with their roommates
Yeah, so
if they already know who they are?
Yeah, so the information that we provide is email address for students to connect through their Temple email. If you would like to reach out and exchange phone numbers or social media or whatever, buyer beware on social media, right? Like sometimes who people are on the internet is not who they are in real life. So buyer beware on that. But if you are reaching out to your roommate and you're having a hard time getting in touch with them, please email us and we can try to connect you and poke a little bit. Some folks might be out of the country on vacation, no Wi-Fi, but we try to connect people before move-in day as much as we can.
Great. Okay, back to culinary services. Are there a lot of vegetarian options available, and are there precautions to avoid cross-contamination?
Okay, I could take this one. Yes, we do have vegetarian options available. If we're thinking about residential, so like the dining halls, we have a station. It's called Seedwell that pretty much would be the go-to, but of course, all throughout the dining hall, we have icons that signify what is vegan, what is vegetarian, or different dietary preferences. And if you look us up online, you can also filter by that on our website. And then separately in retail, it's very similar to how you would kind of eat out right now. You'll just kind of look at those websites and search them up, see what you can and can't eat. And of course, I'm always here to help, so you can always reach out to me.
Okay, great. Thank you, Hope. Should students bring cleaning supplies with them for the residence hall, or is that provided?
Thanks for asking that. So yeah, students should provide some of their own minimal cleaning supplies. They are responsible for keeping clean their rooms. In our communities that are apartment and suite style, those students are also responsible for cleaning their own bathrooms. So that is one of those growing experiences, adulting experiences that they get to learn while they're here. For our students who are living in Johnson and Hardwick, which are more traditional residence hall styles with community bathrooms, our maintaining staff will actually take care of cleaning those bathrooms and doing that, so students only really need to take care of their cleaning space. We do have limited supplies available for cleaning in our front desk that students can stop by. Most students will actually bring their own, have preferences on what they're using, Clorox wipes or, certain things that they should bring with them.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is a two-part question. Can students change their move-in date or their room assignment?
So move-in date, yes, depending on hours and times. I mean, please don't come at 2 in the morning, but yes, please reach out to us. We've been pretty flexible with allowing students to come either a little earlier in the day or later in the day if they have travel difficulties. Changing a room assignment is a little more difficult because, as I said, there is not a lot of flexibility right now. If you are having a pretty severe issue, please reach out to us and we'll see what we can do. But I just unfortunately can't make promises about that right now. So thanks for understanding.
Okay, another question for Hope. Is there lactose-free milk available in the dining halls?
Yeah, we have a dispenser that has 3 options. I believe it's pea milk, soy milk, and oat milk.
Okay, great. This can go to Justin. Could you speak more about retail setting versus convenience? Is there a list available?
So the map is going to be the best source for the list of which ones are, because those are going to be the ones that say cash and credit only. So convenience is really, we have a couple automated convenience solutions. So sort of the type of things, they're called Vicky coolers, but they're the type of things that you might see in a mall or in an airport where you sort of, tap your card, you're able to open the door and then pull prepackaged goods out. We have it's kind of obvious. It's things like Starbucks. We have another cafe that's a La Colombe cafe, or automated convenience solutions. Think things that are not available on the meal plan. Think prepackaged and coffee items, like things that you would find at a 7-Eleven or at a coffee shop.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another bed question. Are all the beds extra long, and can you explain the micro fridge?
Yes, so the beds are not all extra long. So on our website, I'm sorry, that's a stumper. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's on our website. There's a split where some of the beds in 1300 are extra long, and then most of them are not. So please double check our website for that. Micro fridge orders are being accepted now. So students are not able to bring their own microwave to the residence halls. The way to do that is to order a micro fridge. That way we know that people aren't blowing the electric by getting these different types of fridges and microwaves. So that is the best way if you want to bring a microwave. If you just want to bring your own mini fridge, that's fine. You can bring that as long as it's less than 4.3 cubic feet. No?
3.6, Ashley.
What is
3.6.
it? 3.6.
3.6
Sorry.
cubic feet.
Just kidding. But yes, a small one, not like a big one. You can have one of those small ones, and depending on the size, it actually does fit nicely under the bed if you raise it up a little bit. So yeah, micro fridge, the website, if someone wants to help me out with that, it's just mymicrofridge.com. And you can look up Temple and they're already accepting orders. The best thing about microfridge is they deliver it and pick it up for you. So it's one less thing you got to worry about on move-in day. It'll just be there when you get there, like magic.
Okay, follow up to that. Can you share what appliances can be used in the residence halls, like air fryers?
That's a great question. So that's also on our website because there's a pretty detailed list of like certain areas can have a toaster oven, certain areas can't, depending on if you have an apartment style room or a suite style room. So that's on our website as well. I would look for either the community standards or there's a whole list. We link it on our move-in page of what to bring and what to leave behind.
Okay, great.
One tip, Ashley, real quick with that, just as a blanket, air fryers are not allowed. So that is an appliance that is not allowed in any of our locations.
Okay, great. Back to culinary services. What happens to swipes that are not used?
That's a good question. I forgot to say that when I was going through it. So that's why it's so important that your student choose a meal plan that fits their schedule and their needs, because on the weekly plans, it's use it or lose it. So you really have that 7-day period to use those meals. Otherwise, they will not transfer over to the upcoming week. And the block meals at the end of the semester, it's the same thing. So your student will have the course of the entire semester to use that meal plan, but at the end of the meal plan, or at the end of the semester, they will lose those meals.
Okay, great. Another question for culinary services. Is the pricing you discussed per semester or per year?
So the prices are per semester that are on the guide and on the website, yes.
Okay. And another question for culinary services. Can you explain how the guest meal pass works?
So I guess I could, if I go back to my debit card metaphor, I guess it's really a third line of debit that has that little bundle of meals that's on there that you could visualize it. So I mean, I guess that would pertain to the unlimited meal plan, because then you've got your sort of residential, your retail, and then your guest swipes. But it's additional meals that are loaded onto the card that aren't going to expire at the end of the week, that they got that little mini bucket on there that's got the 3 or 5 meals that they can use whenever they want to over the course of the semester. Buckets, lines of debits, whatever metaphor works.
Another question for culinary services. Is Chipotle and outside food trucks included in meal plan swipes?
So they are not included in meal plan swipes, although that's sort of one of those things that I go over in orientation whenever we talk about picking a meal plan. Like I said, things to consider: where your student is living versus the dining hall, where your student prefers to eat. Look at our website, see what we offer, see where realistically, we're not making any life changes the first year of coming on campus is a life change. They're not going to change the way they eat. So be realistic, look at the offerings, but also be realistic about the fact that we have some great local food trucks. We've got some other businesses around. We do have Twisted Taco, which is more or less a Chipotle without being a Chipotle. So there all are alternatives to things like that if your student's a diehard Chipotle, they do have their options on campus. But that's another thing to take into consideration. You know what I mean? To sort of visualize what that would look like over the course of a week, where they're going to eat and sort of when.
Okay, great. Question for housing and residential life. Is it a problem if a student goes on a study abroad second term if they live in on-campus housing?
No. So when you do sign up for housing, it's automatically going to be for the full academic year. So you're going to see a fall assignment and a spring assignment visible to you in My Housing. If someone is studying abroad, that does allow them to cancel in the middle of the year because it's for an academic purpose, right? So in October-ish, please submit the spring cancellation and you can indicate there I'm studying abroad, and that will remove your spring assignment and spring housing charge, so we can allow someone else to select that room for spring. But yes, students generally cannot cancel in the middle of the year. It has to be, for an academic purpose like study abroad, or if someone decides not to return to the university, unfortunately.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question for housing. On day one of move-in, do you recommend students sit down with their roommates to discuss rules?
encourage them to start that conversation before they ever arrive, because Ashley's team provides that contact information. Start encouraging your student to reach out and start having those conversations now around getting to know, what are you expecting, what are you excited about, nervous about. My team of resident assistants will actually also be facilitating what we call our roommate success plans. So they will be meeting with every roommate pair to actually have a guided conversation to actually do those pieces with a trained staff member. And so they can talk about, what do you expect? Am I able to utilize your items if you're not here without your, do I have blanket permission, or do I need to wait to have your permission to do this? Are we allowed to have guests over past this time? Or what does that look like? So all of those things will happen. But again, highly encourage, start that communication now. The more you do it instead of waiting once you get here, it will make the students transition and working and living with each other a little easier.
Okay, great. Another question for housing and residential life. Is there laundry in the residence halls, and how much does it cost, and do they require quarters?
Yes, there is laundry in each of the residence halls. It varies based off of the design of the building, where they have to go for the laundry room and how many. Some have multiple laundry rooms, some are like every other floor. With that, we do the laundry service that we use is kind of attached to their swipe card. So there's signs in each of the residence hall how to use that. The app, there's actually an app that they can track their laundry, so that way they don't have to sit in the same space. That will have and wait for it, that'll show the timer if it's available or not. I do not have the exact cost for it. I can't remember off the top. I don't know, Ashley, if you remember from the move-in stuff either. We'll try to find that out and see if I can have Brandy put that in the responses for us.
Okay, great. This is a good question. How many family members can come help on move-in day?
As many as you want, but remember, we provide parking for one car, and then the second or any other additional cars have to find parking on their own. So you are allowed to bring all the family or friends that you want to help support in that move-in process. You are given wristbands for each of those individuals for security purposes to be able to come in and out of the hall. But again, some folks determine that because there's only that one car kind of limit that gets the parking, that they're also kind of reducing how many people are joining them on campus and might do their goodbyes at home.
Okay, great. Another question for housing and residential life. If my student is moving into a quad and he and his roommate are hoping to be in the same room, is that organized day of, or is it first come, first served?
Great question. So when students move in, tell me if I got this right. So when students move in, if you are on My Housing and you see your specific room assignment and bed number, I know it sounds weird, but it works left to right. Okay. So if I'm moving into a suite, there's an A bedroom, which is a double, and a B bedroom, which is a double, right? If one person is assigned to A1 and A2, and one person is assigned to B1 and B2. So those are the bed spaces that you should be in when you move in. Don't hijack somebody else's spot. Move into the one that you are supposed to be in. If there is a switch, if it's like, oh, well, we want to do this, that's okay. Let us know. It's really important in terms of like emergency management, like God forbid a million times, there's a leak or some type of emergency. We need to know where we're looking for you, right? So please make sure that you are moving into the bed space that you are assigned. And if you want to switch, just let us know and we're happy to do that on our end. Did I answer that question?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. A question for culinary services. If you do an unlimited meal plan and the student only uses 12 meals a week, is there a refund of the difference?
No, but there is a wonderful drop add period deadline. So your student can try it out for a little bit and then they can downgrade to the weekly 12. So that's why it's a good question, because one piece of advice that I always give everyone is to really, be realistic with your student. As I said, try to encourage them to, enter into a routine as quickly as possible. Of course, they are going to meet friends. And, we all kind of do things here and there that our friends are going to do. So maybe a student that's not a big breakfast person might be doing brunch on the weekends or something like that. So there might be some shifts and stuff like that, but definitely check in with them a couple times with how they're using their meal plan before that drop add period, before that date that we've got on the guide. Because we don't want you sticking on a meal plan that's too big, because we're not able to refund the difference for those unused meals.
Okay, great. And just a follow-up to that, how do they keep track of how many meal swipes they've used?
So they're going to have access to it in the app, which Ashley, I don't know if there's any magical way to see that. We sort of on the dining side don't see the back end of the apps, but I know that they're able to see it in the app. They can ask any of our people as they're utilizing their meals at the specific locations what their balance is. The TU portal. What else? There's probably somewhere else that I'm missing.
Yeah, it's the e-accounts app. So that's the best way for students to track it on their own. And then on the back end, if they have questions about like, oh, I ran out of meals this week and I'm not really sure why, we can help with that and kind of diagnose maybe where they used an extra one that they didn't think of. The other thing is if there was an accidental extra meal, because sometimes that happens where there's an extra swipe by accident. If they send that to us, we can also help with trying to get that reversed. I know our Temple Culinary Services team is really helpful with that too.
Ashley, that's a really good call out. And that's another piece of advice that I always give, is that, things do get busy a little bit. And we definitely train our team to ask, our guests if they're using one swipe versus two, because you will have students here and there that, it's Saturday night. They're not going to be eating another meal and they have a couple meals left over that they'll use a second meal for 20 cents because they're not going to use it. But definitely speak to your students and let them know that it's definitely worth saying, I want to just use one meal and I want to pay for the rest in cash if they're checking out at a cash register. But if they're on the Grubhub app though too, then they would just select, that they're wanting to pay with a split tender. So I guess also to take the time and care to look, but like Ashley said, we're one team here, so we're able to work together to correct issues when they arise.
Great.
Now, don't do it once a day. I just want a disclaimer, don't do it once a day, but we're happy to help if there's a mistake.
Okay, and just some clarification on something that was said earlier. Did you say students can use guest meals on themselves in the event they run out of meals for the week?
They sure can. They most certainly can. So that extra bundle of meals are your students to use as they see fit. They can use it on guests or themselves.
Okay, great. And a question for housing and residential life. Should students bring a TV?
I encourage them. Most of our students do have a TV in their room. That's one of those pieces of conversation that's great to have with roommates, because we definitely have had students show up that both have a TV and you don't need two TVs in the same room. Students who might be living in an apartment or a suite where there's multiple folks or there's a common living space, may also choose to bring one to put in that area. But most do bring one, a smaller one for their room. They cannot do any mounting, like any like floating mounts or anything like that, screw anything into the walls or into the furniture that exists. So they do have to set it on top of either a dresser or a bookshelf, something if they choose to have that in their room.
Yeah, if I could just hop in really quick, like Ryan said, that is a great way to talk to your roommates. I know sometimes people split things where it's like, oh, I'm happy to do the micro fridge rental if you want to get the TV, and I'll grab some paper towels if you want to get a Swiffer or whatever. Those are really great conversations to have during move-in day. I know we're all on a budget here. So that's a really great way to connect with your roommate and make sure that you're maximizing and not being wasteful, but that you have what you need. So that's a great point. Thanks, Ryan.
Okay. And another question for housing. Are there room layouts or floor plans that you were able to see?
Heck yes, on the website. I'm sorry, that's my default for everything. I'm sorry, but it's there, I promise. So on our website, if you go under residence halls, find the residence hall you live in, and then most of the floor plans are there. If for some reason you don't see it, email us and I'll make sure to do my best to get that to you. But some of them have measurements and some of them don't, but you get a general layout of kind of where things are.
Okay, great. And last question for all of the panelists. What's one piece of advice for our new Temple Owls?
I guess I'll, throw my hat in the ring since I have recently graduated from Temple University. I will say, have fun. Meet new people, get out of your comfort zone. The best way to learn new things is by jumping in there and just trying anything, just see if it lands, see if it sticks. A lot of friends that I've had along the way in terms of being here at Temple have been lifelong friends, or at least since I've been here for the most part. Due just the fact that I've just been in the clubs or like basketball, playing at the gym at Pearson McGonigal Hall, or just overall just like walking up to people in the dining hall and just saying hi and striking up a conversation. So I would say honestly, just do the best you can with being uncomfortable in the sense of trying new things.
Young Mims, that was a beautiful response. And I was thinking kind of similarly. I would also add on to that, give yourself a little grace. It's a new situation, right? So we all are sort of adapting. And to sort of echo what he said, try something new. How many, I think that those of us who've gone to school and we're no longer in school look back fondly on those days, because what other opportunity in your life do you have to be in a safe environment where you can try new things that you might not necessarily have access to, meet new people, and just kind of expand your world a little bit by trying stuff? So I would build upon what he said by adding that.
I'd say
Jo-
oh, sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
No, go for it, Hope.
I would just say that there's so many free resources on campus, me being one of them. I know housing, you're one of them. So just encouraging your students to not shy away from using them, especially as they're just getting used to campus and just starting out.
Well, that's perfect, Hope, because that was actually similar to mine. I was going to say take advantage of the resources, whether it's making connections and building relationships with the RA, even though that might be a scary thing to do, or talking and getting to know who their residence director or the residence operation manager are, or the folks such as Hope in culinary services that can support them. There's also encourage them to build those relationships with those faculty. They have office hours. They want to help the students. If they do that in their first couple of weeks of getting to know and having those conversations, it makes it much easier when they truly need help versus going through not having done it. And then when they're stuck and they don't know what to do, it's a little harder to go and make that initial introduction. So what I tell my students and people all the time is suck up the awkwardness. Everyone expects that in the first couple weeks of college, and take advantage of it and build those relationships with the resources we have here to help them transition.
All right, bringing up the caboose. I think I would echo what everybody said, but also the awkward part. We know that you don't know. We know that it's like your first day on campus. We know that you're going to have questions about your meal plan and how my swipe works and all of those things. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. And also, I think for residential students and for commuting students, I would say in your first month, resist the urge to go home on the weekends. I think that that's the time where you kind of miss out on things in the hustle and bustle of classes, especially our student activities. Friends have so much, and like weeks of welcome, there's so much going on and so many opportunities to connect with others and to experience things and, explore campus a little bit. I do think that sometimes people miss out when they're doing the thing where they go home every weekend. And I know it's so normal to miss folks, but you got to lean in. And that's the part of it, is that first couple weeks is going to be a really key part. So please reach out to us if you need help.
Okay, great. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have today. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us. You will see their contact information on the screen. They are all more than willing to answer any follow-up questions you may have. In addition, we'll post the recording to this session along with the slide deck and helpful links in the Orientation Hub in the Parent and Family Experience portal shortly for your reference. And of course, our virtual parent and family orientation is continuing, so please visit the Hub to register for any of the listed upcoming webinars and to see recordings of this webinar and previous ones. Lastly, we will be sending you a survey shortly to see how today's session has helped you as you prepare for your student to attend Temple in the fall. Please take a few minutes to let us know your thoughts. Thank you again to our panelists, and thank you to you all for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day.